It's not we who are crazy, it's the world which is crazy, if you don't mind me saying so. And so therefore there is significance that this resonance which is coming from 4,000, 5,000 years of shared human history is coming to the same message. Not the message which the contemporary world wants to hear, unfortunately. Very briefly, on the topic of surrogacy, this is a topic which actually brings up some of the other issues. There are problems associated with surrogacy because there is actually a question of the status of the surrogate mother, whether she is the real mother or whether the donor of the egg is the real mother. In some ways, therefore, it would be good to avoid this kind of situation. But what concerns me particularly here is that we have surrogacy as part of a whole new technology of reproduction, which is being used to produce children for same-sex unions. And I feel that this is a problem. Why? If a person, we spoke before about identity. Everybody is entitled to a mother and a father. This is essential to who we are. If a person is an orphan, their parents couldn't care for them, couldn't look after them, died or whatever the situation, that is a wonderful thing to take in an orphan. With this whole reproductive technology which does not use the parents' genetic material, which you find in IVF, IVF is acceptable as far as I see it. But the other things involving commissioning an egg from this one, a sperm from that one, and incubating it in the third one, you are creating children without identity. You are creating orphans. This is a profound deprivation of human identity. As I said, if it happened, the person was already orphaned, take them in, it's a wonderful thing. But to create orphans, somebody called this the new stolen generation. We have to have a primary regard. In fact, I found a group called Tangled Webs. These are people who are created from donor parents, from ambiguous things. They are fine people, but they feel they've been wronged. In other words, every human being is entitled to identity, to know, to be born from a mother and father who will care for them and love them and raise them and constitute their being, because that's who they are. Even after the parents have died, they are still bonded to them. So that surrogacy is one of those contemporary instruments which is used, unfortunately, to break the bonds of identity. And by doing that, we deprive people of their essential humanity, spiritual and physical identity.
I think surrogacy basically is a human attempt to solve a problem that only God can solve. In the Bible there are quite a few examples of surrogacy actually. Sarah offers Abraham her servant Hagar as a surrogate in Genesis chapter 16. Jacob's wives both offer their servants as surrogate mothers when they seem unable to bear more children to Jacob in Genesis chapter 30. But it never seems to be a great idea. The Abrahamic surrogacy is a result of people refusing to wait for God to fulfill his promises. Sarah and Abraham can't quite trust God to provide a child in their old age, so they try to fix it for themselves. The result is the family is broken up. Hagar, as the surrogate mother, the one with the least power, of course, is sent away with her son. The Jacob surrogacies are themselves surrounded with conflict. It comes out of a sibling rivalry between Rachel and Leah, the Jacob's wives and also cousins, we won't go there, and it results in more long-term rivalry among the sons of the family. The basic problem with surrogacy, I think, is that it cuts against the grain of human nature. These days we sometimes like to tell ourselves that there's no such thing as human nature. What we have are social constructs, and we can do whatever we like, but I think Jesus gives a wiser observation when he speaks about marriage and says that we run into trouble when we try separating what God has joined together. God has created us to work in a certain way, and we damage ourselves when we go against that or ignore our Maker's instructions. I think the same principle that Jesus is speaking of applies here too. When we use donor sperm or donated eggs or rented wombs, we inevitably create a situation where a child is separated from his or her parents in some sense. I think we've already begun to see the pain that is involved with that in the case of sperm donation. I'm not sure if we've learned the lesson, where children grow up wondering who their father is. And I think we're callous too if we think we're not going to cause damage to both the women who bear surrogate children or the children who are going to be separated from their mothers. in general, I'd like to suggest this is part of a wider hubris we see in our society. And here I'd again like to underline what Chima and Maria have been saying. We are far too quick, I think, to assume that we can alter the structure of families and basic relationships and to think that nothing will change. It actually takes decades, perhaps even generations, to find out how these things are going to wash themselves out down the generations. Maybe we should pay a little bit more attention to the wisdom of the ages, or better still, maybe we should go back to the manual that our Maker gave us.
A great debate is taking place currently amongst the Muslim scholars on this issue. There are quite diverse points of view coming up, or fatwas, perhaps, coming up from many quarters. Just imagine that 1,500 million people still searching for an answer, and their scholars are trying to work out what's the appropriate answer for this, well, new phenomena for humans. One group of scholars say that surrogate motherhood of this kind is not allowed because it's akin to adultery. Since surrogates is carrying the fertilized egg of someone who is not a legal husband. This is a view. The child produced therefore has no lineage through legal marriage and will have to be considered as illegitimate. Therefore, if the product is not allowed, the means of acquiring the product, which is surrogate's renting of her womb, is also illegal. This is one point of view. Furthermore, this group argues since the biological mother has a genuine stake in the product, there is an overwhelmingly high probability for emotional and legal confrontation between the two mothers. Law, by definition, aims to remove potential disputes among the human beings. Law is not legislated to increase the possibility of dispute. As it is quite apparent from certain cases of legal dispute between biological and surrogate mothers, now no law has been able to quash the probability of dispute. The current case of the mother refusing one of her newly born on account of its malformation testifies to this particular point. Perhaps the most compelling evidence supporting this group of scholars is the verse in the Quran, which goes on like this in translation: "Their mothers are only those who conceived them and gave birth to them." That's the literal wording of in the Quran. This ayah categorically denies any rights of motherhood to the surrogate mother. Another group of scholars favour the permissibility to permit this kind of surrogacy. They base their claim on secondary considerations and not on any primary principles. This group claimed that Islamic law recognises the preservation of human species as one of the primary objectives. It follows that allowing married couples to pursue conceiving children is also part of this primary objective. Therefore, if a married couple is not able to conceive children themselves, they should be allowed to use surrogacy. This means of that's the point of view. This second group is in the minority at the moment amongst Muslim scholars. They are usually confronted by the argument that this justification fails to address the text of I've read out before, which defines who is the mother and who is not. This text is a primary source of Islamic law and provides conclusive evidence. The analogy of hiring someone to breastfeed, for instance, that was used at some stage. They said that surrogacy is much the same as hiring someone. Hiring someone's womb is, well, it's to their way of thinking, similar to hiring someone to feed the child. However, this has been dispelled and sort of argued very strongly. In summary, while having children is not a legal right for every married couple, pursuing the idea of conceiving children is a prerogative. Whether a couple begets or does not beget should not be left for the secular legal society to decide, because they cannot perceive what's sinful or not sinful in the hereafter. Thank you.